Hello everybody and welcome back to another post-match reaction pod here on the Italian Football Podcast. My name is Nima Tavallaey and I'm going to try to react and produce something coherent, somewhat coherent, after having watched the most insane, historically crazy, entertaining Derby d'Italia of all time. At least, in my opinion, since the introduction of colour TV some 60 years ago. And the only way to begin is to talk about that first half, which was completely mental. There's no other way to put it. I mean, the game started pretty carefully, and it was a situation where Juventus tried to impose themselves in the opening 2 minutes. Inter absorbed the pressure. Then Inter tried to impose themselves on Juve. Did so really well. Got the penalty, scored it, and from then on until the 90th minute plus added time, we saw an insane game. A complete goal explosion ensued in the first half, which resulted in a historic stat, and that is that for the first time in the Serie A, in the history of Serie A, an Inter-Juventus game, the first half of an Inter-Juventus game, 5 goals were scored. Never in history before in the Serie A, when Inter have played Juve, whether it's away or at home for either team, has 5 goals been scored in the opening half. It was absolutely crazy. Inter score from the spot, stonewall penalty, nothing to talk about there. Danilo loses his mind. One of our patrons, Misak, was so angry he wanted to deport. He's a Juventino. He wanted to deport Danilo to Tajikistan of all places for some reason. Then Stefan De Vrij says, "Well, hang on a minute. I might want to be deported as well, because although he doesn't make as serious a mistake, he cannot defend when when the ball is played behind him." And naturally, Dusan Vlahovic breaks his duck at the San Siro and equalizes after a very good run by Weston McKennie. Then it's the future. The Juventus and Serie A and world football's future commences. The first part, at least, with Francisco Conceição turning on the style, showing that he is such a difficult player to play against, at least 1v1. He loves taking the game to his opponent, and he made Henrikh Mkhitaryan look old when dribbling past him and passing it in centrally for Weah, who to turn the game on its head, and Juve go 2-1 up, and which they probably deserved at that point, if we're perfectly honest, because Juve looked to be more reacted really well. And this is something we've seen from this Juve in the Champions League again as well. They react really well when going down. They're never beaten, and this was definitely true in this game as well. Piotr Zielinski showed how important he can be for Inter. He did really, really well for Inter in midfield, dictating play in the middle of the pitch. Maybe not as solid defensively as Çalhanoğlu would have liked, but then again, you can't really blame him for that. This is an Inter, or this was a game where defending was optional from minute 15 and onwards. They just didn't do it. They just didn't believe in doing it. Neither of the teams. Juve then concede another insane penalty where Kalulu loses his marbles and flatly kicks Dumfries right in the back of his thigh. Penalty all day long. The only question was, did the ball touch Dumfries' hand? First, it didn't. We're talking fractions of a second here, so there's no discussion. And he scores again from the spot. But an Inter turned the game on its head again, scoring twice in quick succession. I mean, just look at this. Between, Vlahovic and Weah's goal were 6 minutes apart. And Mkhitaryan and Zielinski's goals were 2 goals apart. Brilliant goal by Mkhitaryan. Very good. Did fantastically well. Good link up. But again, the defensive errors. what were Juve doing ball watching? The only person running after the ball trying to get it was Weston McKennie. In midfield was the central defence, were just all looking at Thuram. Nobody trying to close Thuram down. No one trying to close Mkhitaryan down. And which is exactly what happened when Vlahovic scored their goal. It was not a good defensive performance by any stretch of the imagination for either of these teams. And their coaches won't be anything but happy with that. It was a defensive disaster class, let's be honest, for both teams. And both teams have enough firepower and character to react. We go into half-time and we don't know what to expect. I mean, it does feel that this game can still end 4-4, 5-4. Juve can win it 5-4. Inter can win it 7-2. It really is completely open. And it continues like where it left off, where Inter continue to dominate, create chance after chance after chance. But because it's such an open game, a 2-goal cushion means absolutely nothing, because Inter were wide open just like Juve were. And with Lautaro Martinez in this dreadful form he's in, where he just cannot score, and we've seen it throughout his tenure at Inter, that when he's in this form, he doesn't matter if he has 1,000 shots, he will never score. And that's the kind of night he had. Missing sitter after sitter, and even though Denzel Dumfries scored, he didn't miss sitter after sitter, but he did miss high quality chances. But even after Denzel Dumfries missed an actual sitter, he scores the fourth, and Inter then go into overdrive, and they have to score the fifth and sixth. I even tweeted it out. Inter have to be careful to kill this game off, or else Juve have the quality to not just equalise 4-4, but even win it. And I was convinced when Yildiz came on that was going to happen, because what we saw tonight, let's be honest, this was the birth of one star and one superstar. Francisco Conceição showed that he's a star. He is a fantastic talent, and he really showed what he can do individually. But Kenan Yildiz, who's been criticised the last week, responded in the best manner possible by scoring a brace in 15, 16 minutes of play, and showing that this is what superstars are made of. When, even at the age of 19, and the criticism which I think against him has been very unfair, this is how you react. You come on, you grab a game by the scruff of the neck, and you win a point for your team. Again, defensive disaster class for both teams tactically, but also individually, with Kalulu, Danilo and De Vrij showing their limitations for various reasons. De Vrij, his form has been good, but he's past his best. There's no doubt about that. And the same thing can be said about Danilo. Kalulu had a bad night, yes, but he has showed that he actually has a role to play in this system. But Danilo in a back four as a right centre back, oh my God, Juve have to sign a central defender in January. Juve will. I tweeted out that both teams will probably be annoyed with this game, and that's kind of my feeling with it. Of course, Inter will be more annoyed having been at home and been 2 goals up. But when you turn a game on its head, you can't concede in quick succession, whether you're Inter or Juve. And that's exactly what happens. And that's exactly what happened. Both teams conceded in quick succession. Yildiz, there was 9 minutes between his goals. There were two minutes between Mkhitaryan and Zielinski's goals. But still, you can't concede. You have to have... you have to kill these games off. And from Inter's perspective, I'm still left with the feeling that this is not the same Inter as last year. This is still an Inter who I think is best represented by Lautaro Martinez this year. And a Lautaro Martinez that looks so unfit match fit wise. He looks slow. He looks hungover. Still looks sluggish. They can't seem to kill games off in attack. And they look wide open defensively, conceding 4 goals from open play. And Juve, who'd barely conceded a shot on target in the Serie A this season, were just as open. So we spoke about this in our preview. Who's the winner if this ends in a draw? I think if we zoom out and look at the result, and if you look at everything, there's only one winner. And his name is Antonio Conte, and he's in Naples, because they won a tight game against Lecce with much struggles, but they still won it. And both of their main rivals for the title dropped points. and they look a mess defensively. And remember, the Serie A is a league that you win via defensive astuteness and defensive discipline and defensive ability to not concede goal. And if you will, defensive chastity. This game had no chastity. This game was an OnlyFans on steroids. There was no chastity here. But it was very entertaining. It's probably one of the most entertaining, a historic game for sure, but definitely one of the most entertaining games of all time for neutrals to watch. But there was quite a bit of historic things as well. Kenan Yildiz becoming the youngest player to score more than one goal in an Inter-Juve Serie A clash. It was for the third time in history there was 8 goals scored between Inter and Juve in the Serie A. It was just crazy. But I understand that Juventus fans on Juve will probably feel more happy with this result, given that they came from 2 goals back. But there are lots of question marks moving forward, and I wonder if tonight, with this draw, we saw why neither of these teams perhaps could end up winning the Serie A. But in fact, Napoli will, because of the fact that they play once a week and how frugal they are defensively, whilst these teams in the last week alone, or Inter all season, have been very, very open. And Juve this last week were battered by Stuttgart and were lucky not to concede more than 1 goal. That's something to look at. But overall, an absolutely mad, entertaining, fun Derby d'Italia for the neutrals. And what an advert for Serie A. And that's what I want to say. Marco Guida, who was criticised for his midweek performance of the Champions League, was very, very good. Nothing to complain about. Got all major decisions right. Nothing to complain about. And he allowed the players decide it. And boy, did the players decide this game. We'll be back for a full review of this game and all other games tomorrow, Monday evening. And we will discuss this match much more structurally. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ciao, ciao.